welcome to another episode of Baranov TV, designed to demystify the world of accounts and tax and to help your business grow. Now, today's episode was inspired by a documentary that I watched recently that I'd actually recorded over Christmas, so we'd had it for quite a while, and it's about the Beatles, entitled 8 Days a Week, which obviously most business owners can empathise with as a sentiment, because we're all pulled in lots of different directions all the time and just have a million and one demands on our time and things to do. The Beatles were quite amazing though, and I didn't really realise, because they'd already separated before I really took any notice, I hadn't really appreciated just how much they achieved in the time that they were together. So they were doing 2 or 3 concerts a night. They were travelling and doing lots and lots of media and photo shoots and all sorts of things. And this is back in the days when the media coverage couldn't be done and recorded, and most of it had to be done live. Obviously there was no internet back then either. The demands on their time were just amazing. It also surprised me to find out that Paul and John, between them, during their careers, wrote over 300 songs. Now, we know, looking back, that an awful lot of those songs were amazing in terms of the quality, but I didn't appreciate what the environment was in which most of those songs were written. Now, Paul was explaining that a lot of the songs were written while they were travelling, so they were written in hotel rooms, and they would travel and they would stay in 2 twin rooms. So there'd be 2 in one room and 2 in another. So John and Paul would share a room, and they would sit on the edges of the twin beds facing each other, because Paul's left-handed, and they would be facing each other and actually just pulled a song out of the air. And the majority of their songs were written in that way. They would then take that song to the studio the next day, normally, because of the way their time was structured, and they would arrive at the studio at 10 in the morning, which Paul said gave them time to have a cup of tea and a cigarette, and then they would present that song to George and to Ringo. By 12 midday, that song had been refined. They'd taught it to the other 2, they'd refined it, they'd recorded it, and they were leaving. So that was a very short window to record the songs that we know are like the back of our hand. We know them backwards, and we can all recite the lyrics, or to most of them. So why is this relevant today, and why do I think it warrants an episode of Baranov TV? Well, because there's so many elements of that apply to business owners. Things like the time management. They knew exactly where they needed to be, and they couldn't let any of those deadlines drift. They knew that they had to move on to the next thing, the next appointment, and they knew they had to pull those songs out of the air in the evening, because they were taking them to the studio the next day to be recorded. They couldn't get hung up on the environment that they were writing in, because they just had to get them done. They weren't able to worry about the quality necessarily, although seemingly by luck the quality was amazing. They couldn't get hung up on the quality, they just had to get it done. Whereas we can spend a lot of time tweaking and wondering, and should we, shouldn't we? And invariably we should just go for it and just get something out there to our customers or to our clients. The downside of it was that, as Paul explained in the documentary, eventually they just burnt out. They couldn't maintain that pace. And I think as business owners, there is a real risk that we just push and push and push. And I think Chris and I had an experience similar to this. I think we just got to the point where, with the previous business, where we just pushed ourselves too hard for too long and we were done. So there is a lot about making sure that you've got the time to actually have some downtime and get some distance and some clarity about what you're working for. But the strength of the Beatles was that the 4 of them were an absolute team. They were constantly making decisions that only got carried if all 4 of them wanted to follow it through. So they were an absolute unit. And I think the other thing about business owners is that we can find the position of business owner and sole director in particularly very, very lonely. So if you are struggling with that, or you know somebody who is, a business mentor can help. Our outsourced FD service can help. There's lots of different ways to actually break out of that loneliness that can affect so many people. I found this documentary amazing, really interesting, but there were so many parallels. So if you want, I would imagine it might still be online somewhere. I can't remember what channel it was on, but I'm sure you'll be able to find it. It was called 8 Days a Week, and as I say, it was all about the Beatles, and really interesting. So have a think about those pointers. Try and make sure that you dial yourself down some time off. Make sure that your time is really carefully managed. Don't get too hung up about the nitty gritty. Just try and get some stuff out there. And I'll leave you with that thought, and I'll see you very soon.